And our presentation today is Vistas Today, Leaders Tomorrow. So thank you so much for all of the wonderful words that start with C. The three words that I have selected are courage, chat, and crumbs. So crumbs is going to be a little bit difficult, but I think I can do it. So this is something I'd like to do, kind of an icebreaker before my presentations, is to ask the people that are there to give me words that start with a certain letter. And what I try to do is incorporate those words into my presentation. So for today, I have an hour and a half to incorporate courage, chat, and crumbs. So let's see if I can do it. I know I can. I think I can. I think I can. One of the things that I posted kind of on the preview to this presentation was always try to look for the fun in your volunteer activities, in your service activities. And it is possible. And I have a great story that tells that whenever you are looking for the fun in something, it can be found. So I am cleaning up my home, and I ask my kids to go and get some stuff off the cabinet so I can clean the cabinet. So of course they don't want to do it, but they go and do it because they are obedient and polite children. So one of my kids says, "We need to make this fun." And so my other kid says, "How are we going to do that?" And so they literally start singing, "It's a hard knock life for us. It's a hard knock life for us." Now, let me tell you, my children do not have a hard knock life over here in Texas, but it was so funny because we had just watched Annie, the one with Jamie Foxx leading. So they started singing that song because they remembered the song from the movie Annie, and whenever Annie and her friends would clean up, they would sing that song. So my kids were able to find the fun and excitement in cleaning up by singing that song, "It's a Hard Knock Life." So literally, if some children can find the fun in cleaning up, even if it's just singing, then I know that every person that's listening and watching this presentation can absolutely do the same thing. Even if it's singing that song, "It's a hard knock life for us." So that was just kind of a testimonial that if you're looking for fun, you can absolutely find fun. Slide, please. So today we are going to just really dive into vistas and what the ask is of a vista. And I'm sure that the majority of you have read this. This is the mission statement directly from AmeriCorps' website for vistas. And I'm going to go ahead and read that. It says, members serving in the AmeriCorps Vista program serve full-time for 1-year terms. They build capacity in nonprofit organizations and public agencies to help them more effectively generate the commitment of private sector resources, encourage volunteer service at the local level, and empower individuals and communities. So I am sure that the majority of you have read this mission statement, has seen this mission statement, has had someone talk to you about the mission statement. But a lot of times with the mission statements, people don't fully explain the ask when it comes to these mission statements. So what I'm going to do today in this presentation is explain what the ask is from AmeriCorps to VISTAs. And the underlying words that you see: build capacity, more effectively, encourage volunteer service, and empower individuals and communities, are the topics that I pulled out of this mission statement that we're really going to dive into. Slide, please. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of the underlying words, and we're going to talk about each one of the underlying words so that you will have a complete understanding of what that ask is. So the first one is build capacity. And I'm going to get some audience participation here. And what we're going to do is if you want to answer or if you want to comment on something, please raise your hand in the chat and then I will call upon you. You will also be able to comment in the chat room and some of those comments will be read aloud as well. So the first one, build capacity. Can anyone tell me what those two words mean or what they think those two words mean? Build capacity. It seems simple enough, but it's the first ask in the mission statement for VISTAs. It's the first thing that they're asking VISTAs to do. And by they, I mean AmeriCorps, a federal government, of course. It's the first thing that they're asking you to do, build capacity. Can anyone tell me what that means, what they think that means? If they want to just give an educated guess, you can do that as well. And I'll give everyone a couple seconds to raise their hand or put something in the chat, and we can go from there. We can definitely go from there. Anyone? Couple seconds. Okay, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. I don't see any hands raised at the bottom. Okay.
A couple things just came into the chat. We got Dorothy with increasing the amount of work an organization is able to accomplish.
Okay.
And Jeremy Miller says increase my organization's ability to do their job. And I apologize for the cicada in the background.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Thank you. Those are all excellent. Those are all excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, slide, please. Each one of those actually does touch on capacity building and what that means. So according to missionbox.com, by definition, capacity building is a measurable improvement in an organization's ability to fulfill its mission through a blend of sound management, strong governance, and dedication to assessing and achieving results. So one of the most important words in that definition is measurable. So they want you to be able to measure your success, meaning how many people did you bring in? How many people did you help? So they want you to be able to measure that. And basically, capacity building is a specific effort to strengthen. So through a measurable, sound way, they want you to strengthen the nonprofit organization, to strengthen the community. So your first ask from AmeriCorps is to strengthen an organization, strengthen the community. Slide, please. So now that we know what capacity building means, let's discuss how to do that while being diverse and inclusive. So our first definition here, diversity, the practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds and of different genders, sexual orientations, etc. And that is from dictionary.com. And I really just love this picture on here where it says we welcome, and then it gives the possibility that everyone is welcome. They break it down to race, religion, countries of origin, sexual orientation. That is diversity, that everyone is welcome. Slide, please. And it's very important that they say, we stand here with you and you are safe here. That's very important. Inclusion, the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those who have physical or mental disabilities and members of other minority groups. Now, the definition for both diversity and inclusion are pretty wordy. And I'm going to break it down for you in a way that I feel that would be easier for you to digest and easier for you to remember. But we use those words, especially right now, diversity and inclusion. People use them simultaneously, but they are two very, very separate words and need to be used as such. Slide, please. Now, there are differences, as you can see in the definition of diversity and inclusion. Can anyone tell me what is the similarity for the two words, diversity and inclusion? And as you think on that, I can go back and read that definition, but can you tell me what is similar about diversity and inclusion? Again, the definition for diversity, the practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds and of different genders, sexual orientations. The definition for inclusion, the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, members of minority groups, for example, African Americans, Hispanic, Asian, and those who have physical or mental disabilities. And again, if you want to answer, please raise your hand and I'll call upon you. You can also place your answer into the chat box. What is the similarity between those two words, diversity and inclusion? If you think you know, raise your hand and put it in the chat box, or you can always take a great guess. Sometimes when you guess, you actually guess correctly. Okay, LG, I see LG has their hand up. Unmute yourself, LG, and what do you think the similarities are between those two words?
I wish I could answer it as concisely as you're asking it, but the way that I learned it is through kind of a graphic. So I'd like to try to explain that here, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
If you can think about an old wagon wheel with spokes, the way that it was explained to me how you can be both diverse and inclusive is, imagine there are these 5 spokes. One is red, one is blue, and all the rest are wood and brown. Diversity and inclusion would be all the spokes are not the same. There's diversity. There's some that are brown, there's one that's red, there's one that's blue, but they're all helping that wagon wheel turn by working together. So they're all inclusive, but they don't have to look exactly the same, but they're getting the job done.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Yes, I love that. I've never heard that analogy before, but that's absolutely amazing.
Thanks.
Yes. Okay, any other analogies or what you might want to say? Do we have anything in the chat of what people might think the similarities are?
Sure thing. Sarah Sheehan says, including marginalized communities.
Yes, yes, very specific. Yes, that's exactly right. Any others? Anything else in the chat?
Nothing else in the chat other than me saying I'm totally using the wagon wheel metaphor for, from here on.
It was amazing, wasn't it?
Seriously, thank you for that, Laura.
Yes. Okay, that was amazing, Laura. Thank you so much. The similarities of the two words, diversity and inclusion, at least what I found that was similar with both of them, is they, in the definition, they both use the word practice. So when you're dealing with diversity, when you're dealing with inclusion, you have to practice both of those things. Diversity and inclusion does not come naturally to anyone. Even if you are a person of color, even if you are a male or a female or a Caucasian, you have to practice diversity. You have to practice inclusion. And I love sports. I'm a huge sports person. As a matter of fact, my favorite sports figure of all time, Peyton Manning, just got inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame yesterday, and I was very excited. And one of the things that he would always do was practice. And he would always say that it takes courage. There's my first C word, courage to practice, practice, practice. Because when you practice, you are admitting to yourself that you have not perfected something. So when we are practicing diversity, when we are practicing inclusion, we have to admit to ourselves that this is something that we have not perfected and something that we must continuously every single day practice on including diversity, practice on including inclusion. Slide, please. So this is just my kind of layman's man definition of diversity versus inclusion. So hopefully it'll be easy for you to digest and easy for you to remember. So diversity is asking someone to a party. So you're asking someone to the party, to a dance, you're asking someone to a wedding, you're asking someone to a lunch or a brunch or a dinner. So that's diversity. You are including me in an event. You're including me in your organization. So as you can see, someone's been invited to the party. Inclusion is actually making me feel welcomed and valued when I get to that party. So when I get to that party, that is asking me, do I want to dance when I get to the party? That is asking me, do I want something to drink? That's asking me, do I want something to eat? So with diversity and inclusion, you cannot have one without the other. If you want inclusion, you have to have diversity. If you want diversity, you have to have inclusion, because it's not enough just to invite me to the table. And that's, something that's kind of going around now. We want to be invited to the table. And that is true. We absolutely want to be invited to the table, but that's not enough. You can't stop at diversity and just invite me to the table. When I get to the table, you need to make me feel included. And that's asking me for my opinion, asking me for my thoughts, and then taking those things seriously when I give them, and making me feel included and a part of the team and a part of the organization. So again, diversity, inviting someone to the party; inclusion, asking me to dance when I get to that party. So that's just kind of my layman's man definition of diversity and inclusion. Slide, please. Okay, so with this quote, we're going to really break down the capacity building. And this is a wonderful quote. Before we can measure, we need to have a very clear idea about what we are interested in. This is a key principle. Measurement connects ideas we carry in our heads with specific things we do in the empirical world to make those ideas visible. So a lot of times, we get started, we're out volunteering, we're trying to get people to volunteer, but we really don't know or have a number in mind of how many people do we want to help, or how many people would we like to volunteer. And that's where the measurement comes in. So you need to have a firm number of, okay, I want 50 people to come in and volunteer, and we're going to have 50 people go out into the community and volunteer. Now, whether you meet that number or not is not the importance. What's important is you have that number, and from that number will determine what you need to do to either meet that number, or you can go back and see what you did that helped you exceed that number. So again, it's a key principle. Measurement connects ideas we carry in our heads. And the numbers will show if you are successful or if you are not successful and they will also help you figure out what you need to do to achieve that number. So for example, for your data count or for your measurement, how many African American women were helped, or how many volunteered today? How many Hispanic men were helped? How many Asian women volunteered? So you would need to keep an Excel sheet or just tick away how many African American women came in today, how many Hispanic men came in today, how many Caucasian women came in today for help. So you can see day by day, are the numbers increasing, or are they decreasing, or are they staying the same? Either way, by looking at the numbers, you will know your success or what you need to change. Slide, please. Building capacity. We're still on this because it's such a huge ask that AmeriCorps is asking. So I'm going to give you some tangible ways on how to build capacity. Now, if you have pen and paper, you can write this down, but this presentation is being recorded and I'm sure it will be made available to you. So you can go back and listen if you would like to do that as well. So building capacity is not an overnight project. And a lot of times whenever people start attempting at building capacity or anything of that nature, they want it to happen in a day, in a week, in a month. And I am telling you, when it comes to building capacity, that is not something that's going to happen overnight. You are going to have to put in time and effort to build capacity, and it's going to take some time and energy to make that happen. So one of the first things that you can do to build capacity, and these are tangible steps that you can start implementing as soon as we get off this call or as soon as we get off this presentation. Step one, introduce yourself to the people in the community and in that neighborhood. Some examples of ways you can introduce yourself: you can mail out a flyer. Now, depending on your budget, you can really just make this flyer in your office. Something simple that says, hello, my name is Crystal Petry. I'm a VISTA in the community. Something very simple that you can make on your computer. Or, if you want to go to like an Office Depot or something like that, you can do that as well. But I suggest just do it on your computer. Something else you can do is go and knock on doors. Now, I understand that during a pandemic, this is very, very risky. So you can, kind of take this one or leave it. But if you do decide to go and knock on doors, be as safe as you can. I suggest wearing your mask. When you knock on the door, step back from the door. So when people open the door, you're not just right there in the doorway. But this is another way that you can go out and introduce yourself, knock on doors, and let